As I kind of said before, but I know there's a little bit of confusion, and also I had to be a little bit late myself. Today's mission is a winter court mission. It is not either narrative or combat or anything, or arena or anything like that. It is a normal mission, but keep in mind that it does involve the winter court. So this kind of introduction is going to be a little different than some of my other games. So please kind of zone in, pay attention, and we'll get going with introductions here in a moment. But you guys, the six of you all are sitting in the guild hall, gathered around. You see that there is an open portal to the winter court with some wordings around it to keep the cold of the heart of winter out of the actual guild hall itself. And there's people kind of moving back and forth freely between here and the court of the Winter Fae. As you guys are all gathered around, you see Matt start to walk towards, the guildmaster Matt, start to walk towards the table that you guys are all seated at. Matt normally wears relatively functional-looking clothing. While his robes are clearly magically enchanted, and he does have several sort of magical doodads that he wears on a regular basis, what he's wearing today is very above and beyond what he would normally wear. He's wearing a robe that looks like it's made of some sort of opal cloth that kind of sheds this weird opalescent light around him in a kind of a halo around his body. It looks a little over the top, and as he kind of strides to come towards you, you can tell that he's not quite put on his customer service face for the day. Beside him, there's an adjunct from the guild, a halfling woman who's got 2 bags of holding, one in either hand, and then she also has 2 more bags of holding underneath each of her arms. That she's sort of doing this weird little waddling thing, keeping up to him with pens in her mouth as she's pinning up something on the side of his robes and complaining. Matt comes over to your guild and says, "All right, so as you may or may not know, that there is a ball tonight at the Winter Court. Certain people are required to attend to make sure that everything goes smoothly, but I am going to be requisitioning the 6 of you all to attend at bare minimum here. So, tonight there's going to be a more official soiree, some mingling, that sort of thing, and there is an opportunity here for some wonderful expansion of guild business into the Winter Court." He kind of pulls himself a little bit away from the woman that's tinkering with the hem of his robe, pulls something out of his robe, and clicks it on the center of the table. What he puts in the center of the table looks like it's made out of metal, but when he clicks it down on the table, it makes a more click than a clink, almost like it's made out of ceramic, some sort of dull metal. He looks up and goes, "So, you guys should be all familiar with what this is, but I assume someone might have done the reading to know what this is." And he kind of stares at everyone's face.
Sounds like a quick. Someone do history check.
You could either do a history check or you could do dungeoneering. So history to say that you've done the required reading. Dungeoneering would say that you actually know what it is that he's put on the center of the table.
Okay, doing history then.
Ishtar has no idea what it is.
It's fine, guys. I'm a Dragonborn. Dragonborns are good at history.
Oh my god.
The ghost of the
garbage.
Oh my god.
Hold on. Did I even update my macros yet? I think I'm trained in history, actually. That should be a 24.
Well, don't have bad macros, but sounds like Yizdom is the one that knows what's going on.
Well, I've apparently encountered this before, or something in my past life, but
So
Hey, I beat medium. Hey.
So, on your second attempt, your first attempt was
that's
a
on the
17.
ghost of the past. I get 2 attempts.
Fair enough. So, Ishtar, you recognize that basically you were around when someone was making the. Well, actually, I don't know if your character has this. Does your character wear an Elven chain shirt? I assume that they do.
Yeah.
So you were around when you were watching them make your Elven chain shirt, and it's actually made of an alloy of a bunch of different things, but one of the kind of harder to come by ingredients is mithril. What he just clinked in the center of the table is what it looked like when they were kind of pulling the tiny pieces of mithril that they then work into the metals in the Elven chain shirt that you wear. That thing in the middle, however, actually looks like it's pure mithril, and it's a pretty decent sized disc. It's about 3 inches across, and it looks like it's about half an inch thick.
Is that a technical machine for my Zap Dog?
No, it's a hidden machine. Never teach it.
Fair enough. So I'll sort of look at it and look back.
I think you cut out there.
Oh, I just look back at Matt and I'll just questionably look at him and say pure mithril. It's like I'm not sure what to.
He
gather
nods
from
and says, "Good. Someone is paying attention. Yes, this is not only just mithril, but it is the purest mithril that I've come across. There's going to be someone at the Winter Court this evening that gave this to one of the other people in the court. The story is long and varied, but suffice to say I've gotten a hold of it, and I want this person as a client for the guild. They apparently have some task that they have asked the Fae to do, and for one reason or another they have decided not to do it. Why, I'm not entirely sure. They're being very Fae about it. What I do want you all to do is, tonight, there is a masquerade ball. I wish for you to attend the ball. I wish for you to go and talk to the man who gave this to one of the representatives of the summer court, and see what mission it is that he would like to do, and procure his contract for the guild." So he kind of futzes with the halfling that's messing with the other side of his gown and turns to face like kind of half away from you while he's getting the front parts of his robe fixed up.
How exciting.
mingling with Fae, huh? Sounds worse than
Well, guess you guys get a touch up on your Elven.
a lot of the things we've done recently.
Mingle with Fae.
So-
Just to make sure, Matt.
It's worse than saving Wendig.
Just to make sure, Matt, are you hiring us for this battle?
He kind of grumbles something and says, not exactly hiring you to get this done. I would like for you to go and procure this contract for yourselves, and I would very, very much prefer that when you procure this contract for yourselves, to get yourself well paid for this, that you make sure that you do not cause problems that would make this person not want to contract with the guild again. You are going to be our first point of contact with this individual, and it needs to be a good first impression.
Of
He-
course.
He tries to stare down at you, but it's mostly ruined by him having to cock his head to the side while someone while the halfling pins up his rope.
Of course, we'll do our very best to make a good impression on the ridiculous fake creatures.
We will do what we must.
He says,
Always make a good impression.
in point of fact, I actually do not think that this individual is Fae. They're known as Aegis, and he kind of waves a hand, and you see a little image of what looks to be a human appear in the air in front of you guys. As a little illusion pops up. You see this?
I suppose that is a step up.
You see a phone vibrating.
Did he look like that before?
Actually, yes.
I assume he did
In
not
that
look
exact
something
pose.
different before if it's the same art.
It's just been a while.
Oh, he doesn't have the pointy ears. Sorry. Well, at least he doesn't have the pointy ears.
Indeed, any lack of Fae is a positive.
I've heard stories about how some guild members did a mission for him a while back.
Well, technically this is that mission, so,
Yes.
timey-wimey not really happened yet. So,
I
Oh my
heard,
God, you're
I
right,
heard how the
sorry.
guild might do a mission for him.
Sometime in the past.
They may have sometime in the future have done.
Yeah, sometime in the future, from what I heard.
So,
Is he in another adventure? Has Half met him? I don't.
he is in another adventure. I do not know whether you have
I
met
think
him or
maybe
not.
Conway met him actually. I think about it. And then Genesis.
So, he kind of shows you this and says, he will be at the court. He should be fairly easy to recognize. I need for you to work your way through the crowds to go and find him, secure the contract. It should be fairly simple. Figure out whatever it is that he needs to do, and do that thing. Do you have any questions or any sort of information you would like from me before you're ready to complete your task?
It's a
Has anyone-
masquerade.
Is there an appropriate dress code? Are there any of those weird Fae rules that we're going to need to deal with for going to another place?
So Matt kind of clicks his tongue and goes, actually, that is an excellent point. And as soon as this one gets done mangling my dress, my robe, She will be happy to give you what you need to get properly attired for the evening, including your masks. This is a masquerade ball, after all. And so what we're going to do is kind of at the end of this, rather than doing normal character introductions, I'm going to ask you to do introductions, and then rather than explaining kind of your whole backstory, I want you to explain to me what mask you have the adjunct make for you for tonight's ball. So that is what Matt's going to say, and someone else had another question. I think it was Falrus asked something.
It was, yeah, also about attire, so it was explained.
Okay, so Matt says, of course, we are invited guests. There will be no my brain's not functioning this morning, this afternoon, whatever. There will be no bloodshed at the Winter Court. Don't cause problems. Again, you're here to make good first impressions, not only on the court itself, as we are still relatively new to court, but on this individual. From everything that I've been able to gather, Aegis has a very ironclad word and is respected in all of the circles that I've been able to contact. I've done the normal consulting with oracles and other sorts of nonsense, and while there seems to be some confusion necessarily on exactly what this individual is, what his reputation is not questioned at all. He seems to have enough respect from both of the courts of both of the winter and summer courts to be welcomed in both as a visiting dignitary. So basically what Matt's saying is he doesn't have a ton of information about him, but what he does have about him is that he is very well respected and his word is always considered to be good.
We know he's kosher, that's about it.
Yes. Mainly because Matt is making a point of the fairies treat him as someone who keeps his word, and for fairies that's really important.
Freaking fairies.
Indeed.
So Matt will kind of finish doing stuff, answering small questions, and then he is going to kind of nod his head and then walk away, and the adjunct will stay behind to get people's masks. So, Ishtar, you're first. Give a quick description of Ishtar, and then what mask you were having made for the ball tonight.
Okay, well, Ishtar is presumably for the ball wearing a long black dress with sort of lightning patterns on it. And in general, her skin is very pale. She's very human-like as a revenant human. But along, instead of like veins in her skin that you would almost see, you can see lightning bolts running through, and all of her occasionally has lightning bolts jumping across her skin or just crackling alongside her. And even her eyes are sort of just at the inside, you can just see little lightning crackling inside of it. She has long white hair done up in a nice ponytail style thing. She's carrying a pair of daggers sheathed at her hips. She has, as far as mask-wise, she'll have a black traditional face mask with the same yellow lightning patterns across it to match her dress.
All right, Hearth.
Hearth is going to be decked out in armor as ever. He would, even for a ball, he would like to be in his plate. He's surprisingly agile even within such things. And his cloak sort of flows behind him. He makes sure he's replaced his sort of travelling cloak with one that's much more neat and presentable. Each of it sort of etched in with these sort of lines of red and orange that sort of look almost like flames. But then his mask is made of essentially like rose petals layered on top of each other, with the end of each petal sort of going up in flames. And since he's at the Winter Court, he'll have the petals etched in sort of... So the center of the petal is black, and then the edge is blue as it goes up in flames. He'll have all of those stuck to him to match the circlet of the Winter Court he wears around his neck, which is also a blue and black rose.
Cool. Isdam.
So Isdam is a Deva. He looks like he has slightly pale blue skin, but kind of shimmering like silver. There are lines that go all over his body that are colored like a cyan kind of neon cyan. Uh, for the mask, he was thinking of wearing a dark purple mask with the sign of Sehanin at the top, and then going down like the symbols of faith and love, which usually Sehanin really adores in all her whoopee scriptures and such. And as it goes down into the mouth, around the mouth, there'll be tiny little runes that kind of glimmer and speak of respect, honor, honesty, and promise.
Okay, sounds good. And what are you mechanically?
Mechanically, shaman, animist. I'll try to make everyone get an attack as well as I can. Otherwise, it's making the enemy as useless as physically possible.
All right, Ashnard.
Okay, Ashnard, mechanically, he's a Dragonborn fighter. His goal is to get into the middle of everything and try and lock it down and control it as well as possible and take those hits. What he is wearing, he is decked out in his full armor with a large red fur cloak with a white lining, and in fact, I do have a picture that would show what his armor and cloak would look like, although it's not on the right character. As
Gotcha.
for the mask, he's going for a very bare minimum, and since that he'd have like he wants kind of one of those. I almost want to say kind of a half bandana that comes down and just covers the eyes a little bit in black, and that's about it.
Cool. And what do you do mechanically?
Get in there and mark stuff and take the hits, as I said.
Oh, gotcha. Sylviana.
So Sophiana is gonna, I guess, go for a something to match with her, with the court gown that she's gonna wear. So, matching colors. So, what was it? Red, gold, and I think it was purple. Yes, red, gold, and purple, and it's gonna be of a smiling face. So it's not like a jester's mask, but it's as if just a smiling half, just that.
All right.
Okay. Mechanically, I am a tiefling scion, and focus on controlling the field, just proactively as opposed to reactively.
All right. Falrus.
Okay, Faras is a halfling rogue. I think he will be wearing a black suit with his dagger hidden out in it, and for his mask, I'm not sure how intricate can they be, but I think he would get something like a whole black mask with no openings for eyes or anything like that, but through which he can still see, if that is possible.
All right. So, you take a good bit of time, something like a couple of hours, working with the costume designer, and she makes you guys costumes to your exact descriptions, and then you were able to head off to the Winter Court. Make sure that it gets Zapdog. Going into the court of the Unseelie Fae is always a little disconcerting. It's very cold, it's very crisp. There's this sort of weirdly beautiful but also sort of alien music that echoes around these huge crystalline halls. There are people that are dressed in these dazzling gowns, not only of sort of normal mortal materials, but of sort of dazzling displays of light and magic. Many of the different people who are moving along the through the area are dancing through the halls and kind of moving with the grace that is inherent to the Fae. As you guys kind of go in and start to spread out, you can see that near the back of the party, kind of off to one side, as things are just now beginning to get started, there is an obvious gap in the crowd. Some of you guys that had been here before, which I think Falrus. I think Falrus, you're the only person from the Wanderer 3, correct?
I displayed, yes.
Has anyone else played Wanderer 3
Yes, I think so.
on Hearth?
I think so.
Okay.
Enter the Fugue, yes.
So those of you guys that played Enter the Fugue noticed that there were a few sort of groups that were kind of off to the side during that mission. You can kind of see what's going on, and kind of everyone was holding their own. Today is very different, so everyone seems to be mixed in. There is this very heavy method of the masquerade where you can see it's very difficult to tell what different people are. You know, there are certain people that are partially invisible. There are certain people that are shrouded in dark or in light. You can see a couple people that are walking that just looks like they are flickering flames. The sort of race of and affiliations of people is very hidden behind this masquerade ball of the Fae. What you can see, however, is a similar effect that what you saw in the previous time coming here, that there is a couple of areas in the Winter Court last time that people tended to avoid. Here, however, there's only one area that everyone seems to be avoiding. Near more where the area where the food has been set up, there's about a 30-foot, there's a circle with about a 30-foot in diameter where no one is going near. A group of three people who are gathered around, two of which seem to be listening to a third. The center man, the one that's speaking right now and is being very animated, is incredibly tall. He's a little bit over 8 feet tall. His picture is over here on the left. He has a bit of a ghastly appearance to him. He's got a very heavy hunter's cloak that looks like it's made out of green raven's feathers. And he's talking with a basso that very, very lightly kind of comes across the crowd, being very animated as he talks, telling some sort of story. The woman to his right is almost completely hidden in a veil of invisibility, and the only thing you can really see on her is a set of brilliant amber eyes hidden behind a small sort of traditional masquerade mask with feathers of black and white, and the rest of her body and face fades into darkness. In front of the two of them, there is a third figure, which you would recognize from the previous handout, which would be Aegis. Is standing, staring off apparently into nothing. You can see these, his eyes are kind of glowing with their own inner light. And as Lord Hearn gets to some point during the story, you hear a loud bark of laughter come from the almost completely invisible woman, and you see Aegis give a small smile. What do you guys do? How would you like to approach them?
Do I recognize the woman's laugh?
If you want to give me a streetwise check or something like that to recognize her laugh.
Because if she's a regular, I may well have met her.
She's not a regular in the guild, but she is someone that has been in the court before. And you can tell from a little bit of her you can see and being able to hear her voice, and she has a fairly distinctive voice, especially here. That is Melisaya She. That's the envoy of Summer in the Winter Court. So that's the Summer ambassador.
If we met. So long since the last one.
Ashnard is not one for hanging around, so he's going to be walking towards the three of them.
No, hold on. We should probably remember our court etiquette.
Ashnard is not one for court etiquette and is therefore going to be walking towards the three of them.
I'm gonna attempt to stop him, before he does something embarrassing.
And do say what?
I try to talk to him, tell him to hold on for a second.
Remind yourself that we're not supposed to make a scene, otherwise Matt will have our heads. I respect your encouragement to go ahead and try and make conversation, but we should probably do this according to how this works. If no one's getting close to that, I'm guessing that getting in there might be a problem.
You won't know unless you try. And he keeps walking.
Have you met Matt?
Perhaps we should let someone a little bit more diplomatic attempt to talk with them.
You can absolutely go with
Hang
him
on a second. One
and
second,
try
guys.
and work around this.
Well, can we at least go over court
Never mind.
etiquette first?
As I said, he is walking over there. If you want
Yep.
to go along and try and
So
try and
Ashnard is
work with
walking
this.
across, and people seem to be, flowing out of his way as he's moving with a purpose.
I'm literally going behind him, trying to get him to stop walking for a second.
It does not work.
So, as you guys are kind of going as a group, heading towards the edge of that little area, you see Lord Hearn kind of finishing up his story. He notices you all approaching. He smiles at you all, which looks a little bit ghastly. Says something very quietly to the other two, and then calls out to you, all of you, in a very friendly sounding voice. Ah, hello! More people from the guild. Ah, young Faurus, it is good to see you here again. The Witcher Court always looks well on you. He bows very slightly to you, Faurus.
I bow back and welcome, Lord Hearn. I see you are all enjoying the party.
He smiles and says, Ah, yes, us honored outsiders must stay together. I do not know if you have met. This is Melisayashi, one of the fairest little bright flowers here in this desolate place of ice and frost. And this here is a old companion of mine, Aegis.
I believe I have not met either of the two.
A pleasure to meet you all. I am Ashnard.
Honored. My name is Easton.
Melisaya, when she turns towards you and bows slightly, you can see the veil sort of fade from around her, and you pretty much get the impression that the mask that she's wearing is probably all she's wearing.
Let's not stare too long, guys.
She basically goes partially visible for a moment and then fades back into being veiled. The Aegis listens to your guys' introduction and then says, Hearn, I believe they are here to get something from me. I think that is how things work at court. You make things known that you are willing to pay for things, and then people come who want to collect this currency. Hearn kind of smiles at him and says, Well, they have done good service for me in the past, and I believe I still owe you a favor, Lord Faurus. And he nods to Faurus and says, I would not consider it any part of a favor to give proper introductions and to say that, at least so far as I have seen, they might be worthy of trust. Come with me, my lady. He turns towards the mostly invisible Melisaya and says, I believe that they are going to talk business. And she chuckles a little bit and says, Oh no, not business. And then they both sort of walk away, leaving you all standing there with Lord Hearn. Standing there with Aegis.
Ashnard looks a little confused at the way they left.
Farewell, great hunter. That chuckle.
So you can see Lord Hearn. Not Lord Hearn. I don't know why I keep calling him Lord Hearn. You can see Aegis. He doesn't have any pupils or anything in his eyes, but you can see that there is a little bit of movement back and forth. The light that comes from his eyes does shine a little differently every now and again, as you can almost feel like there is some rotating of something inside of his eyes as he's looking back and forth, but you don't really see anything coming like he's noticing anything outside.
So, Aegis, I believe you have work for us.
Yes, I do. There is a certain task that would be a burden upon me. Completing it would be something that would be very against my proper nature, and the Fae do not wish to involve themselves in matters of many other planes of existence. I need something that is fairly simple, but I am willing to pay well for it to be done.
You can always count on the guild.
He smiles, and when he does, you can see, well, his front couple of teeth Like his front two teeth on both top and the bottom look very human, relatively normal. All the teeth on either side of his mouth looks like he just has rows of canines. It almost looks like a wolf's mouth more than it looks like a person's. He says, trust in mortal greed, indeed. Is this the time that we get down to business?
It appears so.
Unless you have something else to discuss first.
I have many other things that I could discuss. However, I believe what is important now is a bit of understanding. I simply need a message to be taken to some place, and if that message cannot be delivered, I need to know why it cannot be delivered. There is a certain charge of mind that has grown unpredictable, and I need consistency within this time of trial. There is a vault that must be kept secure at all costs. It's on the edge of a very chaotic place. I would like to hire your guild to travel to Shernagar, a realm that is very antithetical to my purpose, to check upon a servant of mine, and deliver a simple message. There is a man who is in a tower on the edge of this dark plain named Kof Amar. I need for you to tell him, from me, to secure the peace.
Veiled words to an old friend, placed on guard. How interesting. May I ask what your purpose is, Lord Aegis?
My purpose in this, or my purpose in life.
You have spoken of purpose many times in your speech. You will forgive me if I do not know what that is.
It is wise to try to learn such things, and the specifics of these things must be properly explained. My purpose in this individual mission is to make sure that my contact, my old servant, is still well and able to protect that which needs to be protected. My purpose in this is simply to make sure that all is well for what is to come. My purpose in life is more properly called my nature. What is what I am, it is what I serve, it is the power that I get, and that which limits me. I would not like to go into great detail to explain the exact feeling of nature to you mortals, but I would simply say that protection, the ability to secure order, reason, and to prevent chaos and disorder from infecting the worlds, that is my purpose. Things that are solid and quantifiable.
So you are part of those that will protect the world. How interesting. I feel we have common cause. Good.
We do have common cause, although it is not common that mortals are able to see it. He kind of turns his face towards you, although you can still see that his eyes aren't really seeing you all. You can tell the gesture is supposed to be him kind of giving you more attention. So, what other sorts of things do you need from me before you are ready to take this contract?
I believe we need a means of transportation to this plane.
That will not be a problem. There is a captain of a spelljammer who is currently docked within the city of Sigil who owes me a favor or two. I will pay you and I will pay him to transport you there.
If I may, my liege, I would also like to know a bit of information. In certain case that your ward is unavailable for any such reason, may it be an attack, may it be a problem that he has to occur, we come directly to you to tell you, or should we try and find this Kothamar ourselves?
Kothamar is my servant. Should there be something wrong with him, or you are unable to reach him for whatever means, if he has been destroyed during the decade which we have not spoken, however unlikely that may be, I wish for you to contact me immediately.
Very well. In the case that we do find him, should be we wary of anything on the way there that could be amiss to our mission?
So he kind of narrows his eyes slightly towards you and says, I forget how limited mortals are. I do not know what all you know of Shernogar. So he says this, and this is the question now that I need to know in character. You may either do a religion or an arcana check to see what your character knows of Shernogar.
Leave it to me, guys.
Great at those.
I got this, don't worry.
Oh, you get him. Oh.
So, apparently, you guys have heard lots of stories of Shernogar. Shernogar is the plane of war. There are basically during some of the troubled times in like the ancient past, it was Bane's plane, like Bane, the god of war and tyranny. And when the orc god Groomsh tried to rise up and rip the war portfolio away from Bane, his his gambit to basically take the portfolio of war from Bane was to take his plane of existence and crash land it into Bane's plane, basically mashing the two together, and then having a sort of battle royale, and whoever made it out on top would be the one that deserves to have the title of the Lord of War. That's been going on for thousands of years. Shernagar is a plane where the Baneites, the worship the Banesworn, those that worship the god Bane, and the Battleborn, who are the ones that worship Groomsh, are constantly in this never-ending war, fighting one another for control of the plane, for control of important pieces, to try to win glory and honor and power for their god, to try to get one god or the other to take over the portfolio of war.
So then in the meanwhile, are both of them like have the semi-title to war or something?
Yeah, it is a contested domain, so they both have it and they both don't.
Interesting.
So basically, you asked whether there would be any sort of problems on the way to going to where this place is. It's on the literal plane of war, so expect there to be combat.
Unfortunately,
whose
Ashnard
territory?
didn't roll to know enough.
Whose territory is your servant found?
When last I checked, and it has been quite some time, as this plane, even speaking its name, causes me some amount of discomfort. Shernagar, the particular place where the tower resides, was last in the hands of the Baneites. Although such things frequently change hands on the plains.
Of course.
One more
We
thing.
were the end of the dread. I'm sure messengers can handle.
So when you say that, you get this weird sort of growling sound that emanates from Aegis. When he talks again, it's kind of like being really close to someone's stereo where the basses aren't really high, and it sort of echoes through your body. And he goes, "The dread is nothing to do with this. That little upstart is not causing these sorts of problems on this scale. He does not have the power to do so."
I assure you, he has no powers anymore.
You get this weird sort of background grumble as if something much, much larger than Aegis is growling, and it's coming from roughly where Aegis is standing.
So coming back to pleasant things, you said that we should inform you immediately. Do you have a way of for us to inform you like that?
A simple sending stone. He does a little gesture, and he has two stones that appear in his hand. He hands you one. Simply use this to send a message to me. it will only be able to be used once, so I would say choose your words wisely. After the sending has been sent to me, however, you should know roughly where I am if you wish to send a second. Basically, the stone will allow you to get to send a single sending for free and instantly to Aegis, and if you want to do more than one, you can do it because you will know where he is from where the stones are.
Alright, thanks.
So he sort of stares you down and says, so this discussion, is this leading to you accepting this contract?
But of course,
I
sir.
believe so. Half turns to the party with a
Ashnod gives a single nod.
He licks his finger, swipes a line in the air, and then he reaches through what seems to be a very small portal and pulls out a long bar of that same dun metal that Matt had in the guild. It's almost as large as, it looks to be about the shape and size of Ashnard's forearm, and hands one of them to Falrus, and then takes a second one from the thing and hands the second one to Falrus. One of these is for your participation in this, and one of these is for the participation of the Captain of the Celestial Dawn, a man named Captain Ransour, which you will find docked at the ports of Sigil. He will take you to where you need to go, and this should leave us very well paid up in full. So basically, one of the bars is for you guys, and one of the bars is for Captain Ransour.
Alright.
So, does anyone have any other questions for Aegis before you guys head to go do other things?
Half would like to know how he fits into the puzzle. If he is friends with, if he is well acquainted with the Intellectus or with Weave Pasha, or if he is a friend of the Traveler, or exactly how he fits into the sort of the alignment of protectors.
So the question I would ask for you is, we can either do the thing where you can talk in character and you can kind of go back and forth, or you can, if you want, you can kind of give me a summary of what sort of information you want with a check associated with it, and we can sort of do it a little bit faster that way of summaries back and forth.
Yeah. Hearth would just like to know sort of where he fits in with those things, like who he's friends with, who he isn't, and if he sort of fits in along those lines. I don't know.
So Aegis is going to talk in relatively general terms. If talking about some of the other people, when you talk about Intellectus, he will say that he knows of many different creatures that are similar to that. He does not know that one in particular. But if you kind of give him more information, he will eventually kind of realize what you're talking about, and he will say, yes, the Watcher's domain. I am familiar with that which you call Intellectus, although it was known as Marvin when last I spoke with it.
There's a chuckle, and Hearth writes that down.
So he kind of listens and talks to you a little bit, and he will basically say, I am always on the side of those that wish to see things maintained, to continue to exist. The old company. He will talk about the kind of old adventuring company, and in his mind, he considers them as something that when he talks about things, he talks about this as something that happened relatively recently, but when he speaks, you can tell that it's been a really long time for you guys. It's just been a not very long time in his frame of reckoning.
It's like
reckoning
200 days for us. It's like yesterday for him.
Yeah, well, it's more like...
Sorry, 200 years, I mean to say.
Yeah, it's like 200 years, and he talks about it like it was a couple of weeks ago. So he talks about there being a group that was Besmahiz, the Sphinx. He would not call him Weave Pasha. He would call him Weave Thantarum, the mage. He talks about Morthak the Watcher, Morthak Wastewalker, and talks about Bedvir Lugos, the giant, and talks about sort of them and kind of how they did some things and how they made a lot of friends and made a lot of enemies, and how there were times that he was able to give shelter and succor to the group when their enemies were causing too many problems, and they would sometimes use Aegis as a safe haven, and they would work with Hearn in order to get out of problems. So apparently, a good bit of sort of his interactions with Thing is basically as a host. And when he continues to talk about stuff, you can sort of see that everyone sort of treats him as a neutral party. And if you get basically safe haven with Aegis, that you're well and truly protected. And so basically, he talks to someone that those people caused problems, and they had all kinds of stuff that was going on, and they were being young and very volatile, and he kind of puts a bit of a very clearly negative spin towards how volatile that their group was, but not that it was kind of expected because they're mortal. And then says that they did do what they needed to do to get his protection, and that he protected them for a time, and then they went off on their way. And then they decided at some point that his cost for protection was too high, and so the group split up, and two of them went off to a place that is so far removed from everything else that it is almost impossible to have any sort of conventional or unconventional things come after them. One of which he believes has died since they have left his protection, and another one has sort of faded into obscurity. So Weave Thantierum and Besmahis went and hid in some corner of the galaxy or some corner of the plains that really it's so hard to get to that they were protected by being in the middle of nowhere. Bedvir Lugos sort of fell off the map and kind of went into obscurity. And then the guy Morthak Wastewalker died, and that's kind of what his opinions are of the old people.
Fascinating. Half looks like there's a sort of like really interested, glowing eyes for the whole time of it. It's just like, wow. He'd like laughs at someone describing Weave Tantrum as young. It's like this little chuckle.
And so kind of as he talks through things, and he kind of gets towards the end, and he says, but we do not have an infinite amount of time to be here, although my message does not need to be delivered at the exact moment. It is customary to kind of looks, and you see his eyes fade, looking more like normal eyes as he looks around the crowd. Mingle.
Of course. It has been a pleasure, and we will take up your request. But yes, there's a party for us to enjoy.
So,
Before Ashnard leaves, before Ashnard walks off, he says, "I hope that once we fulfill this request, you will consider myself and the guild in higher regard."
if you are able to complete the request as asked, then I will consider you in the highest regard until you give me reason to doubt.
I shall ensure it.
You see him kind of, as you guys kind of turn and start to make your things to say before you leave, Aegis will have one last moment where he says, I understand that mortals do not take instructions very well and are much more likely to not chafe at things if it is given in the form of advice. In that respect, I would like to advise you not to take anything with you from Sher Nogar. That place is violent and volatile, and in these troubled times, it is a place that is full of dark things. Things that might be able to cause problems if brought back into places that are less well secured than. He kind of gestures around to the entirety of the Winter Court. Than places that are more used to dealing with less than mortal threats.
Aeson will turn at this and say, a well-mannered request from one such as you, then we will make sure not to bring any such things from that accursed place.
He holds up a finger and says, "Not a request. Advice, little ones." And then he turns and walks away. So, do you guys have anything else you want to do before we continue to head on?
Ashnod does not want to mingle.
Cool. So, as you guys kind of leave the Winter Court, go back towards the guild. The guild does have a way of getting the sigil. There's a door to sigil that's in the basement of the guild.
There are so many things in that basement.
There is, but legitimately there was some older missions that went to unlocking a key to a place in
Yeah.
sigil. Yeah. So
I remember that.
So there is a door to Sigil. Sigil itself is a wild, chaotic, crazy place. In the interest of time, I'm just going to say that there's everything that you might need might be in Sigil at some place. So if you guys have anything in particular that you would want to purchase, anything like consumables, that sort of stuff, take a minute to go think if there's anything you guys need before you head off, and then head towards the docks themselves. At the docks, there are all kinds of ships, all kinds of things that are kind of spread around. However, even in this place where there are kind of otherworldly things, there's spelljammers are common. There are ships that look like normal boating docks that are up against this sort of illusion of a dock where water would be. You can see that there is one brilliant ship sort of floating above one of the docks, away from everything else that's glowing with its own life. Ideally, you